Hey everyone, the channel is on its journey to reach the first 1,000 subscribers. A small milestone, but a truly meaningful one. If you enjoy the content, hit subscribe and let's cross this first milestone together. When Ling and Mei Ning found out that Han Li, with his early Nascent Soul stage cultivation, had slain a peak mid-Nascent Soul stage demonic cultivator, what would their reaction be? Before entering Devillful Valley, Han Li decided that he, along with Yin Yue, would take a trip to the far west to get their hands on the last 2 levels of the Great Development Technique, and while they were at it, visit the Qianju sect to see if they could obtain some advanced methods for refining mechanical puppets. This would better guarantee the success of their Devillful Valley trip. Are we leaving now? Yin Yue asked, stunned for a moment. We leave tomorrow. I'll first go and bid farewell to Senior Brother Cheng. Then I will seal up the cave residence and take all the important things with me. The far west shouldn't have any formidable high-level cultivators. It most likely won't be dangerous. It will just take a bit longer, and we must rush back within 3 years. Otherwise, we might miss the best time to enter Devillful Valley. Han Li replied with certainty. After hearing this, Yin Yue nodded in agreement. Not long after, the two of them left the herb garden. Han Li went to find the silver-haired elder. Yin Yue stayed in the cave residence and began to pack, preparing for the next day's departure. Early the next morning, Han Li, who had rested for a night, had just walked out of the cave residence's main gate with Yin Yue, when he found a beautiful woman with a graceful figure, standing quietly outside the cave residence, silently watching Han Li. Why have you come? Did I not leave you with enough medicinal pills for several years of cultivation, so that you could stay and cultivate in peace? A flicker of surprise flashed in Han Li's eyes. He asked calmly, Young master, I have thought it over. It seems my cultivation has reached a bottleneck again. It would be better for me to travel with you, young master. Besides, as your personal attendant, accompanying and personally serving you is what I am supposed to do. Young master, would you be willing to take me with you? Mu Piling lowered her pretty head. She whispered, her cheeks faintly blushing. Her stunningly beautiful face, paired with her full and tall figure, made her appear exceptionally charming and attractive. After hearing this woman's words, Han Li was startled for a moment. He sized up Mu Piling with a glance and fell into contemplation. Meanwhile, Yin Yue, behind Han Li, let her beautiful eyes wander. A faint smile played on his lips. Since you want to go, then come along. On the way, I can also give you some guidance on your cultivation. If you can reach the core formation stage sooner, it will be of great benefit to me as well. Han Li didn't hesitate for long. He simply nodded in agreement. Thank you, young master. Mu Piling was overjoyed to hear this. Her face was full of excitement. Seeing this, Han Li gave a faint smile. Then, with a flick of his embroidered robe, a streak of white light shot out from his sleeve. It transformed into a square, winged, flying chariot. It was the wind-riding chariot. Yin Yue, upon seeing this chariot appear, showed a beaming smile. Then, with a slight flicker of her form, she turned into a streak of white light and shot into Han Li's large sleeve. When Mu Piling saw this, she was startled. Her face showed utter astonishment. I will explain the details to you on the way. Let's get on the chariot and depart now. Han Li paid it no mind. He said with his usual calm expression, Yes, young master. Mu Piling was no ordinary female cultivator. After all, after a moment, he regained his composure. With a twist of his waist, he floated lightly onto the chariot. But just as he was about to step onto the flying chariot, a graceful figure flashed before him. Han Li arrived on the chariot at the same time. He formed a hand seal, conjuring a layer of brilliant white light that enveloped the flying chariot. Then, with a soft hum, the wind-riding chariot instantly vanished, transforming into a world-shaking white rainbow. It tore through the sky and was gone in a flash. Shortly after, news spread throughout the Drifting Cloud sect that their elder Han, during a confrontation with the demonic cultivator, so he was preparing to enter seclusion for several years, to restore his cultivation base. During this time, he would receive no visitors. When the other two sects of Cloud Dream Mountain heard of this, they repeatedly sent people to inquire about Elder Han's injuries. But the silver-haired elder was always vague, and managed to put them off. Other cultivators on good terms with the Drifting Cloud sect also came to visit, but they too were turned away with the same words. Thus, regarding Han Li, the newly ascended and widely renowned elder of the Drifting Cloud sect, news of his serious injuries began to quickly spread throughout the Shi country. Even the sects from other countries couldn't help but take notice of this matter. The cultivators of these sects didn't have many doubts about it. After all, the demonic cultivator that Han Li killed in the end was an elder of the Yingluo sect from the Jin country. It was said that he had a peak stage mid-Nascent Soul cultivation level. his vital energy was greatly damaged after killing the opponent. This was considered a very normal thing. But even so, in the eyes of many sect cultivators, Han Li had become a great cultivator with divine abilities, comparable to the likes of old devil Tiahen. The reputation of the Drifting Cloud sect soared as a result. Many sects began to deliberately build good relations with this sect. They were also rogue cultivators with high cultivation levels, who specifically came to Yumeng Mountain to join the Drifting Cloud sect. In a short period of time, the Drifting Cloud sect faintly showed signs of becoming the #1 sect in the Shi country. This made many disciples within the Drifting Cloud sect feel extremely excited. This elder Han Li, who rarely appeared in front of ordinary disciples, this mysterious elder also became an unparalleled figure in the minds of these disciples. The Donghua country of Tianan was one of the very few countries in the Tianan cultivation world that did not belong to any of the 4 great powers. This was not because the country's area was too small, or its resources so poor that the major powers overlooked it. On the contrary, whether in terms of its territory size or the abundance of its cultivation resources, it was enough to rank among the top in the Tianan region. The reason why to this day no single power has been able to take control has everything to do with the geographical location of the Donghua kingdom. It is a major factor, besides being too far away from the 9 Nations Alliance to have any connection. It is actually simultaneously bordered by the other 3 major powers' territories, being wedged tightly in the middle. Moreover, this country's cultivation sects are also numerous and mixed due to certain historical reasons. There are sects of both righteous and demonic natures, and also small, independent factions outside of the righteous and demonic paths. Most importantly, among the Donghua kingdom's native cultivation factions, no single sect can completely overpower the others. To become the decisive force, it is unable to represent the Donghua kingdom itself to lean towards any particular power's side. As a result, none of the 3 major powers is willing to give it up. The 4 parties naturally engage in endless open and secret struggles over it, but still with no conclusive result. In the end, they could only make a vague agreement that none of the 3 major powers would interfere in this country's affairs, making the Donghua kingdom a neutral nation. Of course, many of the native sects of the 3 kingdoms had long since pledged allegiance to either the righteous and demonic paths or the Heavenly Tao Alliance, thereby receiving covert support from the 3 great powers. This also allowed the Donghua kingdom for over 100 years to barely maintain a state of equilibrium, leading many cultivators to regard it as a neutral land. They came here one after another to settle down. While this made the country prosperous and flourishing for a time, in Changzhou, in the northern part of the Donghua kingdom, there is a basin that occupies almost 2/3 of Changzhou's area. Most of this basin is covered by an exceptionally dense forest, and at the center of the basin, there is a vast mountain range stretching for 1,000,000 li. It is known by the locals as the 10,000 Ridges mountain range. Whether this mountain range truly has over 10,000 ridges, no one has ever actually investigated. But since this mountain range is so vast, it is naturally exceptionally abundant with various spirit beasts and rare spirit herbs. However, except for specific times that occur every few decades, even cultivators dare not rashly come here to gather herbs or to capture spirit beasts. The reason for this is entirely because this 10,000 Ridges mountain range also has another, more sinister name, known to everyone in the Tianan cultivation world. The land of the fallen devil. In a certain hidden place within the mountain range lies what is known as Tianan's most dangerous and mysterious ancient place, the Valley of the Fallen Demon. This mysterious ancient place has existed since the primordial era. During this time, countless cultivators with great divine abilities have entered the valley to seek treasures. But after tens of thousands of years have passed, it is still tightly shrouded in a veil of mystery and bloodshed, truly deterring anyone who gazes upon it. Even to this day, of course, the infamous reputation of the Valley of the Fallen Demon alone is not enough to stop cultivators from trying to exploit this mountain. However, it is unknown if it's due to the influence of the Valley of the Fallen Demon, but this 10,000 Ridges mountain range, at some point in time, has been sealed off year-round by a colorful miasma. This miasma is not only extremely poisonous, touching it means instant death, it is also incredibly dense, almost like a static barrier, so much so that you can't see your hand in front of your face. Once deep inside, it's impossible to distinguish directions, and one becomes lost within it. In such an environment, even if a cultivator could remain unharmed within the miasma, it would be impossible to even consider picking spirit herbs or capturing spirit beasts. They can only stare at this mountain of treasures with envy, or, at the outermost edges where the miasma is thinner, they can only operate on a very small scale. However, about every 50 years. The miasma in this mountain range dissipates for a time. This is also the time when the spatial rifts in the Valley of the Fallen Demon are at their fewest and most stable. During this period, treasure hunters from far and wide would seize this brief period of about a year to enter the mountain and search for treasure. Of course, this mountain is so vast that even with so many people, those who could actually make a find were still only a small fraction of the cultivators. But even so, every time this period arrived, thousands of cultivators from all over would still flock to this place, and in the vicinity of this mountain, some merchants backed by the power of their clans would also form in a very short amount of time several markets of varying sizes to purchase spirit herbs and spirit beasts from successful cultivators, and they would manage to prosper for a time. This year, the miasma of Myriad Ridges Mountain began to thin. It seemed the complete dissipation of the miasma was at most a few months away. Immediately, large groups of cultivators flooded into the King Prefecture region. Their numbers far exceeded those of previous times, and the majority of them were cultivators from other nations. High-level cultivators appeared among them even more frequently. This caused the local cultivator sects and cultivator clans to be greatly alarmed. They hastily forbade their disciples from going out casually and sent out people to investigate the reason behind it. The news they received left these local cultivation factions utterly stunned. On an unnamed hill at the border of Chong Province, a pair of male and female cultivators who had accepted a mission were standing side by side at the peak. The man was in a long, dark blue robe. He appeared to be about 30 years old, handsome and refined. The woman, however, was dressed in practical attire. Although she had a very curvaceous figure, her looks were quite ordinary. There was nothing particularly outstanding about her. The two of them appeared calm and composed, but their occasional gestures of looking around and the hint of anxiety hidden in their eyes revealed their true state of mind. After a short while, a glimmer of light flickered in the distance. Then, a silver streak of light flew towards them from afar. Judging by its direction, it was heading for the hill. Upon seeing this magical light, this pair of male and female cultivators, who looked like a couple, both showed joy on their faces. The silver streak flew over the hill and circled once, revealing a scholar in a brocade robe who looked to be over 40 years old. Big brother, you're finally here. How did it go? Feel the sting. Second brother, don't feel so bad about it. This time, if that person and I weren't life and death friends, and if their sect wasn't so short-handed, decided to give up this investment opportunity. Right now, it's 100,001 billion tokens. I'm afraid many people out there would be fighting over them. Besides, the Ghost Spirit sect originally wanted to take the treasures of the Fallen Devil Valley for themselves. Now, under pressure from the other sects, they had no choice but to agree to let outsiders participate in the treasure hunt in the valley. Otherwise, even if you wanted to use 100,000 spirit stones to exchange for one chance to enter the valley, the people from the Ghost Spirit sect would never agree. Are you? Sheng said with a helpless expression. After Man Yixu heard this, he couldn't find any words to refute it, but he looked at the token in his hand and still asked worriedly, however, is the Ghost Spirit sect's method for entering the valley really reliable? I heard that at the valley's entrance. It's filled with numerous spatial rifts. One careless mistake and you could be completely annihilated. And about that Ghost Spirit sect elder, the news that he once came out of the valley alive. Big brother, you don't think this could be false, do you? Unless the people of the Ghost Spirit sect want to make an enemy of the entire Tianan cultivation world. Otherwise, there will be absolutely no problem with this matter. Besides, haven't we all heard? That elder from the Ghost Spirit sect, only his primordial spirit managed to escape. His physical body was also lost in the Fallen Devil Valley. The scholar, who seemed somewhat reasonable, replied without a second thought. But even if we can enter the valley, that Fallen Demon Valley, an incredibly dangerous place. I don't know if buying a token to enter the valley this time is the right decision or not. The other man, hearing the scholar's explanation, still said with hesitation, HMPH, with the aptitude of the three of us, our current cultivation level is already at its peak. If we don't find some great opportunity, in another 200 years or so, we will all just turn into a pile of white bones. Now that we have this chance, we must take the gamble. Besides, I've heard that in the outer regions of the Fallen Demon Valley, dangers like spatial rifts are much less common than in the inner depths. If we just stick to treasure hunting in the outer area and are extra careful, we should be fine. But the woman said nonchalantly, I heard that this time the Ghost Spirit sect released several hundred fallen demon tokens all at once, and most of them ended up in the hands of the various major sects. I even heard that even the Mulan spell masters will likely send people to join. That means there will be several hundred cultivators Who can enter the valley with the ghost spirit sect to hunt for treasure? With so many people going together, what is there for us to fear? The worst that can happen is we turn back immediately if it gets too dangerous. But if we miss this chance, we would regret it for the rest of our lives. Taoist Rasheng also saw it clearly. He said lightly. The female cultivator at his side nodded repeatedly, seemingly in deep agreement. Since Big Brother has spoken, this younger brother will of course follow you. The man with the full beard gave a bitter laugh, and said nothing more. A similar scene played out frequently in various places near Kang Prefecture. Half a year ago, a rumor began to spread from an unknown source that the ghost spirit sect had obtained the method to enter the Valley of the Fallen Demon. It was also said that the ghost spirit sect planned to hide this from the other sects, intending to monopolize the treasures within the valley. Once this news spread, it immediately shook the entire cultivation world. Originally, after having just fought a great war with the Mulan people, the major sects that had planned to rest and recuperate could suddenly no longer sit still. They sent people to the ghost spirit sect one after another to inquire about the matter. Even the other 6 sects of the demonic path also sent envoys to verify the truth of the matter. The higher-ups of the ghost spirit sect were naturally furious about this, but under such immense pressure, they could only bite the bullet and admit to it. After all, if anyone was determined enough to investigate the matter, they could always find some clues to uncover the truth of the matter. As a result, the other sects naturally, unceremoniously demanded to share the method of entry. This time, the ghost spirit sect stubbornly refused to agree. In the end, they only proposed a compromise. They were willing to provide some entry tokens to the various sects, as long as one held this token. When the spatial rift in the Fallen Devil Valley stabilized, the various sects could send some of their people to enter the valley along with the cultivators of the ghost spirit sect. However, they would naturally have to pay some spirit stones as the price, of course, to appease the dissatisfaction of the rogue cultivators. They also specially released 100 tokens for the rogue cultivators and those smaller sects. Now that time was approaching, King Prefecture naturally became lively. Near the 10,000-mile mountains, many more cultivators from other countries appeared. This made the local cultivators, who originally wanted to enter the mountains for treasure hunting, become extremely cautious one by one. All of them started to behave with their tails between their legs. The city closest to King Prefecture was a large city called Donghua. This city was 10,000 li away from the 10,000-mile mountain range, but there were still many cultivators unwilling to camp in the wild, who took up residence within it. And originally, a small cultivation sect secretly occupied this city. All the disciples had long since been recalled to their sects. They turned a deaf ear to everything happening in this city. Although a great number of cultivators had gathered in this city, with the sheer number of inns available, accommodating these cultivators was no problem at all. Among them was one called the Hong Fu Inn. It was just an ordinary one among the many inns. 2 groups of cultivators had also checked in there. They had separately booked the 2 independent rooms with courtyards at the back. Inside a room in one of the courtyard wings, 3 people were gathered around a wooden table, discussing something together. These 3 were all young and beautiful female cultivators. They were Ling, who had parted ways with Han Li back in Tianyi City, and Mei Ning. The last person was naturally the female messenger they were on good terms with. At this moment, Ling appeared dignified and beautiful, but she had clearly used a secret art to conceal her unparalleled and enchanting true appearance. She looked like just an ordinary female cultivator with some charm. The 3 women now wore grave expressions, whispering about something. Meanwhile, a white light shimmered on the walls of the room. It seemed a restriction had been cast to prevent anyone from eavesdropping on their conversation. Sister Song, have you still not heard from Brother Han? There isn't much time left until the miasma completely dissipates. If Martial Uncle Han doesn't appear soon, we might miss the best time to enter the Fallen Demon Valley. Lin's dark brows furrowed. She asked with a worried expression. The person she was speaking to was naturally the one sitting opposite her, the woman in white, surnamed Song. Sister Lin, you know very well, more than 2 years ago, although our sect's Martial Uncle Chang announced that Martial Uncle Han had entered seclusion to heal. But in reality, I had a faint suspicion that Martial Uncle had actually gone to the far west, although I don't know what business Martial Uncle Han had in a place like that. But for a round trip, the journey alone would take over 1 year. This isn't something that can be rushed. Besides, don't we still have several months? I long ago left a precise contact address within the sect. As soon as Martial Uncle returns, he will be able to find us immediately. As long as Martial Uncle wants to rush back on time. In the far west, what cultivator could possibly detain the Martial Uncle Han of today? The woman surnamed Song smiled faintly and said with a calm and composed expression, That's hard to say. Even if fellow Taoist Han's cultivation is heaven-defying, there are some things that can't be solved just by having a high cultivation level. Zilin sighed. She couldn't help but recall her experience in the land of Yingming. But with a shift of her gaze, she immediately continued, Elder Sister Song, these days every other word from you is Martial Uncle Han. You can't stop talking about Martial Uncle Han. It seems you've suddenly become so respectful of Brother Han, so much more than you were before. You didn't have this expression when you talked about this Martial Uncle Han in the past. As Zilin spoke, a faint, teasing smile appeared on her beautiful face. The woman surnamed Su blushed slightly, but her expression immediately calmed as she said, if you, younger sister Zilin, could also kill a mid-Nascent Soul stage, top-tier, cultivator, I would be just as respectful to you, younger sister Zilin. Martial Uncle Han is now in Tianan, an existence second only to the 3 great cultivators. I am merely a junior. What's so strange about being a little respectful? Hee. Of course it's not strange. It's just that, when I heard about these battle records of fellow Taoist Han, I was also quite shocked. Decades ago, Brother Han was a core formation cultivator, just like me, but now he actually possesses such astonishing divine abilities. We even have to look up to him now. It's truly hard to believe. If I had known this earlier, I should have just forced Sister Mei to marry him as a concubine back then. Then little sister Mei Ning's future cultivation path would surely have been smooth sailing, Zilin said with a beaming smile. Mei Ning, who was beside her, heard these words. Her cheeks instantly flushed a deep crimson, but she let out a soft huff. She still didn't say anything out loud, but deep within her daze, there was a hint of melancholy. Back then, Han Li had once given her a choice. Unfortunately, in a moment of hesitation, she actually missed the opportunity. Now that Han Li has such a great reputation, she naturally wasn't in a position to easily bring up this matter anymore. Little sister Emmy, I was almost made a concubine for Han Li. This is really the first time I've ever heard of this. I had always thought that Han Li and little sister Zilin might have some connection. After all, with little sister's peerless beauty, I refuse to believe that there's any man in this world who wouldn't be captivated by it. The messenger woman was surprised at first, but then she chuckled and teased Zilin with a HMPH. Back then, I didn't know fellow Taoist Han would have such vast divine abilities. If I had known, I might have pledged myself to him long ago. If I were to become fellow Taoist Han's dual cultivation partner, it would surely be much better than my current slow cultivation. Zilin pursed her fragrant lips and said with a faint smile, making it hard to tell if she was being serious or not. This made the messenger woman, who had always been somewhat reserved, stunned upon hearing this, and feel rather exasperated. But for Brother Han's divine abilities to have become so powerful, if he really agrees to help, then there's a great chance of obtaining the Spirit Pearl fruit. Sister Song, have you really decided not to enter the Fallen Demon Valley? You know, Sister Mei is unwilling to go. It's because the number of cultivators entering the valley has suddenly surged. With her cultivation level, going in is simply too dangerous. Zilin hesitated for a moment, and said slowly, I've thought it over carefully. I'm not quite the same as you two. Although I'm only in the early stage of core formation now, I am already at the peak of the early stage and about to advance. I can reach the next stage with just 20 to 30 years of hard work. It's not worth taking such a big risk for this. As for the other treasures in the valley, you have to risk your life for them. I know my own limits. After thinking for a moment, fellow Taoist Song replied seriously, since Sister Song has already made up her mind, I won't try to persuade you any longer. To be honest, if we really can't wait for fellow Taoist Han, I wouldn't dare enter the valley alone either. After all, with so many high-level cultivators entering the valley now, the danger has also increased greatly. There will surely be many incidents of killing for treasure. I'm just an early core formation stage cultivator. If I go in all by myself, wouldn't that be like a lamb entering a tiger's den? I am not that foolish. Xiling gave a bitter smile, and said dejectedly, these words left Mei Ning and a woman surnamed Song across from her stunned. The ghost spirit sect suddenly let the news leak. This was something no one had expected. At first, I even thought it was you, Sister Xiling, who deliberately leaked this information, hoping to fish in troubled waters. A peculiar look flashed across the face of the woman surnamed Song. She muttered to herself, fish in troubled waters. What is there to gain from fishing in troubled waters in a situation like this? Of course, when entering the valley, the fewer cultivators, the better. Only then can we get ahead of the ghost spirit sect and unexpectedly pluck the spirit candle fruit. Xiling huffed softly. You seem to be in a bad mood. Wasn't the news released by fellow Taoist Zilin? It seems someone else did this. A familiar male voice suddenly came from outside the door.